before we start, in terms of like understanding what are the different components we have in the big data, what are the different kind of the tools we have in the big data, and how to do basically the data processing when it comes to the big data ecosystem. Let's spend some time in terms of understanding, let's spend some time in terms of understanding like why we are talking about the big data today, right? So what have changed in last couple of years, so that I hope you guys must have some kind of the professional experience. You might have started your career 8-10 years back, and that particular point of time there was no big data as such a concept, right? So all you have is like your SQL database, other technology you had, and some kind of the tool, ETL tool, or the data warehousing tools you had, and you mastered those tools and you were able to process the data. Now in last couple of years, thing has changed, and one of the the organization which faced this particular challenge very early, that was Google. And Google was like one of the company when they started basically hosting their whole the whole internet of the internet data which they had from the website all across the world, and they wanted to come up with some kind of the algorithm which will basically do the kind of the recommendation in terms of whenever you are looking for a particular site. They wanted to have like all the database, all the data inside their data center, and they wanted to have a mechanism to process all those data by using parallel processing, so that they can come up with the results in a faster way. Now, what happened, when they attempted this particular problem, when they tried to solve this, so whole journey of this whole big data, it started somewhere from the Google. So I will take you through that particular journey, how it is started. So at Google, what happened when they try to store all this huge amount of the data, the first challenge what they face is in terms of how to store with this huge volume of the data, because the data which what they got, it was like a kind of a huge volume of the data, so in terms of the petabytes of the data we have. And that was the one of the challenge, like first how to store that huge amount of the data, and once you are able to store that huge amount of the data, the next challenge was like how to process that huge amount of the data. So basically, since you cannot store that huge volume of data in one particular machine, so you have to involve set of the machine to basically do the storage. So you need also like a set of machine or the distributed computing to basically process that data and get the result set. So the Google faced this particular problem, and they came up with something called the Google file system, and the MapReduce concept, and that's where the whole journey of the big data started. Right. So so when we talk about the big data, right, it has basically a couple of components in terms of it. So one I told about you, the storage of the data, and otherwise like processing of the data. Apart from that, what when we talk about the big data, it also have like the components which in terms of like the volume, velocity, and the different variety of the data. As we started our webinar, like Binayak told, like if you want a question, go ahead and put on the the Twitter. Now, suppose we want to bring that data. The data is not going to be in very structured format. You are not going to use kind of a multiple kind of the choice question that our answer will be very predictable. You are going to write any kind of the question, and we have to get that question and analyze that in case we want to process the data. So basically nowadays the data comes from like all the social media, all the different kind of the data we have. So that's basically structured data, unstructured data, semi-structured data. So in using the big data technology like Hadoop, we can process all those kind of the data, and we can basically capture the data, we can analyze the data, we can store the data, search, we can share, transfer, and all the visualization we can run on top of the data, and we can basically understand or get the insight from the data. So what the big data enables you, to basically analyze the huge volume of the data. And when we are talking about the volume of the data, is like thousands of the terabyte or the petabyte of the data which we are talking about, right? So by using the big data technology, now it's possible to store such volume of the data as well as analyze that huge volume of the data as well. Okay. Okay. Are you guys good with this particular slide, guys? Any question here on the slide number 3? So in case if you have a question, just let me know. Yeah, good. Okay, cool. Amit says good. Okay, good. Okay, Pinto has a question. What is NoSQL? Yeah, I will answer that. Pinto, what is NoSQL? Okay, okay, not a problem, Anup. You just join. Fine, that's fine. Okay. Now, the when we are talking about the data, right? If you see about like our organizational data, how we had, a couple of years back, all the data used to come mainly like, it used to come from, yeah, our SAP system or the ERP system, which organization used to have. And those data generally used to be in kind of, the structured data. I mean, you can put that data in table in the column format. You will have your OLTP application that will generate the data, and then you bring that data into the warehouse, and then you analyze, you do your ETL stuff, and then you get insight from the data. Now, recently, with the growth of internet, what happened, all the majority of the data, what it comes nowadays in the organization, it is coming from the web or the internet, and those kind of the data is like, comes in the category of unstructured data. So based on, one of the survey, what they had, they come up with like, around 80% of the world information what we have right now, it is kind of the unstructured data. So like today, if you launch a particular product, you don't need to basically ask people to fill the feedback. They are going to basically tweet about the product on Twitter, and all you need a mechanism to basically do the sentiment analysis and bring that data and analyze that. So basically the demand or the use case for analyzing the unstructured data is growing very, very fast. And if you want to basically serve your customer better, you have to be basically analyzing all their behavior, what they are doing on when you are like, suppose if it is a shopping cart kind of like Amazon or Flipkart or any online company it is, and they had the business which is basically have a heavy online presence. You need to basically analyze all the activity related to the user, and when you go to analyze such activity, it is the data is mostly in terms of the unstructured format, and you need to bring that, and you need to have a mechanism to process that. With the technology like big data, and as the Pinto was asking about the NoSQL kind of the approach what we have, using that you will be able to basically process that huge unstructured data easily using the big data technology. So there are like I hope Balaji. Yeah, Balaji, so by default, all the participants will be muted. So in case you have question, just put on the question window, and we will be taking that question and answer that. Okay. 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 So, if you want to get insight from all the kind of the web data which we have, like I was talking, one of the shopping cart data, you can basically use NoSQL kind of the database, which Pinto was interested to know. So what you can do is like you can store all that information about one particular session using NoSQL database like HBase, and you can retrieve it by just using some API call. So those kind of the things are possible now by using the tools like HBase and other NoSQL databases. Okay. Astos is big data and Teradata are same? Not exactly Astos. So big data is like they both of them use the parallel processings. Like Teradata also has like AMP concept, and they use hashing to distribute the data. But the big data is much more than that what Teradata offers. So Teradata is mainly focused on your structured data, while in case of big data you can go with semi-structured, unstructured data, and all you can store that. So it's a bit different and much more possibility it offers when it comes to like processing the data and getting insight out of it. Okay. Uh, okay. Arul says, is the big data is kind of Informatica? Informatica is basically a tool, Arul, that's basically to do the ETL processing. In case of the big data, you have both like how to store the data, as well as you have the tool or the mechanism how to process the data. So it's a complete package that helps you in terms of dealing with both structured, unstructured, semi-structured data storage, as well as the processing. Rakesh says big data is technology or the concept. So okay, that's a good question, Rakesh. So basically the big data it's a kind of a term which we use in terms of the high volume of the data or the different variety of the data, as well as like what the velocity aspect of that, like how we want to process the data. But overall, to process the data, we do have the technology like the MapReduce processing, MapReduce framework, Hive, Pig. So those are the technology which enables in terms of the handling that big data. So as such, big data it refers to the data which is very huge. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Is that answer your question, Rakesh? Okay, good. And Astosh is how similar is it with the DBMS? Okay, so in terms of the similarity, Astosh, I'm taking these questions, guys, because these questions are very relevant here with the slide which we are discussing, and basically to help you to understand the foundation in terms of like what the big data is. So compared to DBMS, yes, in the big data, you can process your structured data by using tools like Hive and all. But then, generally the DBMS kind of like if you talk about Oracle or MySQL, those are having very low latency kind of things. So basically, they runs very faster when you connect your .NET or Java application. In case of Hadoop, since it is mainly meant for like the batch processing, I'm talking about the core of Hadoop, not about the NoSQL. So those are basically having high latency. So that's where it differs from the DBMS kind of the solution. Amardeep says, are pig Hive technology or algorithms? Yeah, I will answer that question, Amardeep. So basically, they are the tools which you use it in terms of the processing the big data by having the easier interface which they provide. Okay. Okay. So, the challenge what we have in the today's world, it's basically the challenge what we have with the, the growth of the data which we are seeing. So every day we are generating terabytes of the data, petabytes of data. So I'm talking about the whole world. I'm talking about. So it's like you go to a particular vacation or you get a particular product. You all you do is like you create a data, you take the snaps, you put on Facebook, you tweet about it, you go ahead and you create a lot of the emails and the documents. So all this data basically nowadays available for us to store as well as analyze. So the data is growing in terms of the volume, and we need a mechanism where not only we can store this data, but as well we need a mechanism where we can process this huge volume of the data and get insight out of it. So that's where uh, big data kind of the technology comes in picture, and they basically helps you in terms of processing that huge volume of the data and getting insight out of it. So examples like nowadays organization have like you might be working in your organization, and okay, hey Balaji, I think you are facing some audio issue. Okay, just let me just check with the support team here. They can help you. Did you try disconnecting and connecting it back, Balaji? Okay. Okay, just a second, guys. I will just. Okay. Okay, Balaji, we'll try to send you the recording if possible. Okay, to your email ID. Okay. Okay. So Anup, you have a good question. Is the big data replace all the RDBMS like Oracle SQL? We'll talk about that. I will make you understand like why it's not like it's going to replace something. We'll talk about that. So some of these questions, guys, what you are putting on the question window will get answered once we progress through the slide. So that will like, what Hive, Pig, and what the data we process. I will cover that once I go through the slide. Okay. So when we are talking about the big data or the data which we are getting from the different source, like the transaction data, OLTP kind of the system, like from your SAP system or ERP system, or the data from the social media, like Facebook and other, the web interface, as well like email, different kind of the documents you prepare whenever there is a new release of the product. You create a lot of document. Then another, the device which is generating a lot of data nowadays is the mobile devices. So they are generating a lot of the data that need to be basically stored and analyzed. So to do all these kind of the things, we need basically to have a mechanism which can match the kind of the growth we are seeing in terms of the data generation, and analyzing that and understanding about the data. So the good thing is, like, we have the big data here. So we have the technology like Hadoop, we have the framework like MapReduce, we have the tools like Hive, Pig, NoSQL, like HBase, Cassandra. By using that, we can process the huge volume of the data by involving, like, distributed computing concept, and we can process that. But then challenge we have is, like, how to basically understand, or how to basically store that, process that, and analyze that. So the data was getting generated huge, but then the problem what we have is like how to process that huge volume of the data. And this is like the problem what we had with the organization which had the huge volume of the data. And when they try to basically solve this particular problem using using the existing RDBMS kind of the solution, they were not able to basically scale out in terms of the speed which they need to process the data and get insight out of it. So, why I think some of the question we have, why to move for Hadoop. So one thing is, like, it enables you to process large data set across a cluster of the computers using simple programming model, and that model is a MapReduce programming model. So that's, one of the thing we have. And it's not that, prior to Hadoop, we didn't have this concept like involving multiple machine and process that. We had that particular mechanism earlier as well, where you can go for basically distributed computing, and you can involve multiple machine and process that. But then the problem what we had at that particular time, that we didn't have any particular framework which takes care of, in case of the failure, how to basically restart from that point of the failure in case the program fails while running. So generally in those scenarios, like earlier people when they were using the distributed computing, the kind of the code they used to write, so instead of having focus on how to get insight from the data, the programmers used to focus a lot in terms of, like, how to recover in case of the failure. So that used to take a lot of effort, and that's what the Google also faced. And what they did is they did a step back kind of the approach, and they designed this whole distributed processing framework where the scalability and the reliability is inbuilt in the framework. So if your job fails, you have another mappers which can run in parallel, so you don't need to worry about like how to recover from that failure. So those things will be taken care of within the framework, right? So that's way it makes the life much more easier. And the second thing is, since it stores the data across the multiple machines, so you can run a lot of the parallel processing on top of that. Okay. So it has become, like, Hadoop has become kind of a de facto standard for storing, processing, and analyzing huge volume of the data. And since it is cheaper to use compared to other vendors like Oracle, IBM, where you have to pay a lot of licensing cost, Hadoop is open source, so it becomes very cheaper for an organization to afford it and process it. And the best thing what is with the Hadoop is basically that kind of the data it can handle. So if you go with the normal RDBMS solution, all they can handle is the structured data, where you have data is tabbed, delimited, or a particular sequence. In case of Hadoop, you can store your email data, or your video data, audio data, image data, all kind of the data you can store in Hadoop, and you can process this. So during the coursework, we like we'll share with you how using the Hadoop you process your image data. Like suppose like 10 of your friends uploaded the same picture on the Facebook, and Facebook want to analyze like what are the pictures which are duplicate in the nature, right? Compared to the the number of the pictures which they have in their database. So you need a mechanism like which can run across the kind of the storage what they have, and analyze that, and give you the list of the duplicate images. So those kind of the processing is possible nowadays by using Hadoop kind of technology. Right. So the next thing, in terms of like why to go for Hadoop, right? So one thing like from like technology wise, it has a lot of the challenge, a lot of the concept which you learn in terms of processing the data by using the parallel processing. But the main thing what you have in case of Hadoop is like you have a lot of the growth and the job opportunity what Hadoop offers. So there has been multiple survey, and based on that, the kind of the salary nowadays what you get by Hadoop technology, it's huge. And if you are from the Java background or any other such data processing background, for you learning Hadoop will be very very easy, and just you have to learn these tools, and by learning these tools you will be able to relate it to your day-to-day work, and you will able to basically handle the huge volume of the data for your organization. So compared to all the different kind of the big three we have in the current world, in terms of the growth, in terms of the mobile or the cloud and the data side is growing much faster and much better opportunity what you get with in terms of the big data processing. So in terms of the job opportunity, it's huge, right? So there is a lot of demand in the market for the big data professional. And if you go, like if you are attending this webinar from DICE, you can just go ahead and see the kind of the job opportunity we have there, and kind of the requirement get posted there every day. It's huge, right? So Deepak says, interesting question. Can Hadoop efficiently analyzing the small size of the large number of files? Deepak, in that case, what you have to do is basically you have to basically combine those small files and get a bigger chunk, because if you go with the small file, the overhead in terms of the maintaining that file will be used for the name node. So we do have a mechanism how to process the whole the small files inside the Hadoop, but Hadoop generally likes to deal with the larger data set. S1 says, for someone who starts his career, how do you deal with the question of experience? Okay, that's interesting, S1. So if you are starting your career new, and if you are in the data processing world, machine learning and all those stuff, you can definitely find Hadoop useful, because this will be the technology which you will work some or other point in your career in coming days. So it should be helpful, right? If you don't have experience, that's not a problem. If you learn and understand this technology, always you can put your candidature better than the other people who are still getting started with the Hadoop. Okay, so this is like how the Hadoop is in demand, right? So you can see here there are different kind of the roles what we have in the Hadoop world. So we have the role like data scientist, you have the big data visualizer, you have data analyst, architect, engineer, big data research analyst, and visualizer, right? So there is like a lot of demand, and you can see from the right hand side that compared to like how many vacancy we have in percentage and how many have filled, it's like a lot of the the vacancies are unfilled kind of thing, right? So that's the kind of the opportunity it brings in front of you. So you have an opportunity to basically master Hadoop and just fill the the space which we have where we have the demand in the Hadoop world. So once you learn about the Hadoop, learn about this technology, and with little, the practice what you do as part of the coursework and in the project which we do during the course, you will be very very confident and in terms of using the tool. And I have seen that when the people start the course, they have like no idea about the Hadoop, and when toward the end of the class, if we ask like what is their experience in their the confidence level in Hadoop, and generally we get the ratings like 7 or 8 or 9 kind of thing. So that's the kind of the comfort level you get in Hadoop once you understand about these technology in a correct way. Deepak says there are different distribution of the Hadoop like Cloudera, Hortonworks, MapR. Which one the best for them? Okay. So Deepak, yes, there are multiple distribution as you called out. So currently, if you see the leader is basically the Cloudera. So Cloudera is one of the leader, and they have a lot of the material available on their site, which is available for the developer or anybody who wants to learn about the Hadoop. In terms of the hot and work, they are doing also good work. They came up with this yarn architecture, and they have the solution which they are trying to work with the Windows or the Microsoft to come up with something Hadoop on the Windows. As of now, most of the application is on the Linux. The map are also having a very good implementation. So all those are good, and depends like which works for you in terms of the commercial part and the features wise. So all of them offers some kind of the features in terms of easy installation, support, and the different tool on top of that. So based on that, you take a call which particular vendor you have to go for. Upal, what is the qualification required? If you can drop a note to us, like we have on Edureka a blog posted, which will basically tell you like what this job is and what kind of expertise we needed. So I think that will give you a good amount of information in terms of understanding the requirement for that. So just go ahead and put your question on the Twitter, and somebody from the support team will help you to answer that. Okay. Okay, so as you can see here, guys, so there are different kind of the rules which we have, and if you want to understand more about these rules, just let us know. We will let you know all the details about all these rules, what it is. And also, once you go through the big data course, you will basically able to, fit in based on your background or based on your interest, you will be able to basically fit in one of these roles. So as in terms of the salary component, right, how, so Hadoop is profitable in terms of the money because, right, so we all are professional, we work here and, end of the day, we need our checks to be paid, right? So in case of the Hadoop, yes, you are going to put a lot of effort. You are going to, spend your Saturday, Sunday learning about the Hadoop, seeing the black screen and, doing all the lab and exercise. But then end of the day, what it's going to pay a good amount of salary in terms of Hadoop professional. So a lot of opportunity you have in Hadoop, as we saw in the last slide. And when it comes to your paycheck, yes, you are going to get a big or fat paycheck here in case of the Hadoop. So overall, it's both way. It's very good for you in terms of the number of opportunity it has, and the kind of the lack with what we have in the market currently in terms of the learning Hadoop. And then the third thing is like the kind of the salary it's going to pay you. All three things in case if you are looking about the commercial aspect or the career growth in terms of the working on the some cutting edge technology, I think Hadoop should be the technology which you should go for now. Okay. And when I'm telling about that, it's not that something I'm just trying to basically tell you about the Hadoop. It's something reality. It's currently there, and if you can go and do like little bit analysis, everybody in the organization is talking some or other thing about the Hadoop nowadays. So it's there, it's everywhere, it's there. All you need to is to get it started at the right point of time, and then get. So this is also current time. So whole this technology has not come very like 15 years back or 20 years back like MySQL or something. The whole the journey of the Hadoop, it started from the Google. And once Google came with their Google file system paper, people took that particular thing, and around somewhere around 2004, the Google released that, and after that it started slowly graduating, and then people started using it. So it's very very recent technology, and not like a lot of the people are comfortable with it. So yes, you can get it started on the right time, and you can basically able to make a career in Hadoop once you master these technology. Sandhya says, how does Hadoop help in data analytics? Okay. So, Sandhya, so whenever it comes to the data analytics, there are the different tools which you can connect, right? So, in case of the Hadoop, if you want to integrate, you can integrate all these machine learning, R analytics. So, those kind of the tools you can connect with the Hadoop, and you can analyze the data. So, to do that, first thing is you have to deal with the huge volume of the data, and that's where the Hadoop is basically going to help you in terms of the storage of the data. And then by using the these technology, you will be able to process the data for your analysis. So it's basically gel well with in terms of the analytics, because end of the day, from the data, all you want is you want to get some insight or get some some business value which you can make the dollars. So yes, it's there. Okay, not a problem, Sandhya. Okay. Yeah, Patel. So, we do have a lot of material available on the Edureka site as well. So, a lot of blogs and which will tell you to understand about the Hadoop and all. So, it's there. So, there's a lot of links there. In case you're interested, just let us know on our Twitter handle. We will be able to provide you that. Yeah. So, anybody guys, if you need any question or anything, any additional material or clarification, please feel free to get in touch with us, and we will be able to help you. So, yeah. So by now, I think, since we discussed about the Hadoop from last 1 hour kind of thing, and I hope by now you must be, in sync like what the Hadoop is. So Hadoop basically has, is a kind of a framework, right? So Apache Hadoop, why Apache? Because it's part of the open source. That's what we have in under Apache umbrella. We have the Hadoop. So what Hadoop is a framework, right? So first thing is Hadoop is a framework. What it does or what it enables, it allows the distributed processing of the large data set. So what it does is it allows the distributed processing. It means that the processing what you are doing in Hadoop, it's not on one single machine you are doing, but you are involving thousands or 2,000 kind of the machine or the nodes which you have. And and the good thing about the Hadoop is the kind of the machines what you are going to involve in case of the Hadoop processing. It's going to be the cluster of the commodity computers. So it's just like normal computers. It's not like very high-end kind of the Xeon server or very high-end servers you are going to put. All is like normal commodity hardwares like a few GB of the RAM and few terabytes of the storage you are going to have. And the whole processing in this whole framework, it is done by using a simple programming model that is like MapReduce. So when you will learn about the Hadoop, you will learn about like what the framework is, what are the different concepts we have in the framework, name, node, job tracker, and all. And also you will learn about like how involving the multiple machine enables us to process this large data set, and what is the programming model we have in terms of the MapReduce. So you will understand this all when we go through about the Hadoop and the MapReduce processing. And since it is an open source data management system, so you don't need to pay any kind of the licensing fee or any kind of the vendor fee, and it works like a kind of the scale out storage. So you mean you just want more processing or more computing, just add few more nodes and you can scale your system. So that's the way Hadoop is going to be defined, or it works in case of the the distributed processing of the large data. So now, when we are talking about the Hadoop, right, we have to look towards the Hadoop ecosystem. What are the different kind of the tools which we have, and each of these tools, guys, they have their own depth in terms of the understanding and how they work. So that's something we will learn about, at later point of time when we do the whole thing. But in terms of the Hadoop, what it has is like Hadoop has the two important concept. One is like Hadoop file system that basically deals with like how you store the large volume of the data. So that's HDFS file system. And then the second thing what Hadoop has is like the framework which enables how you process that huge volume of the data. So the way the Hadoop, HDFS and the MapReduce, they have basically very tight integration. So anything or any parallel processing you want to do in Hadoop, it has to be a MapReduce job that can run on top of Hadoop. So either you have the option to write your code directly in the Java program, which will get converted into, which will be basically a MapReduce program you will run. Or if you are not familiar from the Java programming aspect, what you can do is you can go with the tools like Hive and the Pig. So Hive is more like a SQL kind of the interface. So if you have your data in Hadoop, you can use Hive interface, and Hive will provide you SQL kind of the interface, which you can use it to process the data inside the Hadoop file system. Similar way, you have the the Pig, that is another language which is basically enable people to process the data inside the Hadoop. So that is more like it's have its own language called Pig Latin, and using Pig Latin you write your program or the logic, and then you submit it to the Pig compiler that converts that into the MapReduce, and then it runs in the Hadoop. So anything if you want to run in Hadoop, all you have to do is you have to have in this MapReduce framework, right? Except this HBase part which we are talking. So by using Hive, you write in SQL that get converted into the MapReduce automatically for you, and then you run on top of Hadoop. In case of Pig, you write in Pig Latin that get converted into MapReduce from framework, and then you run on top of Hadoop. Similar way, if you want to connect your Mohat, algorithm also, you can basically connect it and run on top of the data set which you have in Hadoop. So all those things are possible in terms of the processing the data in Hadoop. But before you start processing, the first thing what you need to do is Right. So during the course of what we do is, guys, we go through each of these modules except Mohoth. We go to Hive, Pig, MapReduce framework, HDFS, Flume, Scoop, everything in detail, HBase, and we learn about this all this tool and how to use that and get that data processing inside Hadoop. So one thing what we have in Hadoop and the MapReduce is like all this processing, it happens in terms of the key and the value pair. So whatever the value you want to process, it has to be associated with a particular key. And what is the concept we have with the key and the word and the value is like suppose if you want to analyze your whole a text file and that you want to do word count processing, in that each word will act as a key and the number of times that going to occur will be the value, right? So that way you process that data and then you come up with like how many times this particular word has occurred in a given input file. So that's like the MapReduce programming, everything you have to represent in terms of the key and the value pair. So this is like one of the constant what we have with the MapReduce. So if you are not able to implement your algorithm in the map and the reduce framework, this was like one of the constant we have in Hadoop 1.0 in terms of the processing. With Hadoop 2.0 and the Yarn architecture which we have now, you will be basically able to process not only MapReduce but apart from other applications which basically doesn't fit in terms of the MapReduce component. And as some of the Hadoop, right, it has basically two components. One is Hadoop file system, that's storage. So it has like fault tolerant. So if you have one set of the data is not available, you will have another copy of the data that will be available. So by default, Hadoop has three-way replication factor. So using three-way replication factor, you always like suppose if you store 1 terabyte of the data in Hadoop, it will be actually stored. And in case if you go with the default replication factor as 3, it will be stored as 3 terabytes of the data. So that's the kind of the fault tolerant we are talking. So you have the multiple copy of the data, and since the data will be accessed in parallel, so you have very high throughput in terms of the accessing the data, and suitable for the application which is a large data set, and data is basically redundant, means you have same copy of the data available to multiple machine, and in case one of the fail, you can start the processing on another machine and get the output. MapReduce is basically a framework that enables you how to process this huge volume of the data, so how to identify where all the data is, and it is having also very reliable in the fault tolerant mechanism, which basically enables you, like if you submit your job and if it fails halfway through, it will be the responsibility of the MapReduce framework to make sure that particular job, like suppose if the data is not available in one copy, instead of reporting it as a failure, it will try to get another copy of the data and process that. So that way, the MapReduce is also very good in terms of the parallel processing as well as having the fault tolerant and reliability inbuilt. And with Hadoop, right, as we talked, right, so currently in Hadoop 1.0, we had mainly the MapReduce which used to work. Now recently this Hortonworks has come up with the Yarn architecture. So by having this Yarn architecture, what we have now is, apart from the MapReduce, other kind of the processing also enabled on that, and that's where like the Spark, GraphDB processing, streaming, right, and other kind of the parallel algorithm you can run now on top of the Hadoop. So basically, it opens the door for the multiple kind of the technology which can leverage the data which is stored in the Hadoop and process that. Right. So that's what something we have in Hadoop 2.0. Yeah.